Some cars are comfy on the inside, but don't have power on the outside. And some cars have the horsepower, but none of the comfort. I used to think there weren't any cars that were the total package. But that all changed when I got my Honda SUV. It's rugged and sophisticated. And right now, Honda has deals on the entire Honda SUV lineup. CR-V, HR-V, Pilot, Passport, you name it. So if you're looking for a car that's the total package, the only place you'll find it is at your local Honda dealer. Hurry before they're all gone. Some cars are comfy on the inside, but don't have power on the outside. And some cars have the horsepower, but none of the comfort. I used to think there weren't any cars that were the total package. But that all changed when I got my Honda SUV. It's rugged and sophisticated. And right now, Honda has deals on the entire Honda SUV lineup. CR-V, HR-V, Pilot, Passport, you name it. So if you're looking for a car that's the total package, the only place you'll find it is at your local Honda dealer. Hurry before they're all gone.
You're listening to the Getting Salty Experience podcast.
All right, guys, and we are back. Welcome back to the Getting Salty Experience podcast. It's the only podcast in the whole wide world that brings the Firehouse Kitchen table right to you guys. As always, I'm joined by my lifelong buddy and friend who got a new haircut over there, Louis Refrano.
What up?
Lieutenant Ruffy. We got Pandemic Pete up in the corner.
Boom.
Shalom.
We got a really, really exciting guest tonight. I don't even have to announce him, but we will introduce him in a second as soon as we get through our shameful plugs that Pete will bring up.
Shameless, my
Shameless.
friend.
Could be shameful.
Let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. This is our show, and the way we keep this show rolling and going is gettingsaltyapparel.com. That's right, guys, where you'll find t-shirts like this one, where it says everything will kill you, but do something fun or whatever on the back. The Bronx Ben t-shirt there that Mr. Kubies is wearing, the one Louis is wearing. Mm-hmm. Beautiful tumblers like this one to hold your drinking apparatus, and much, much more. So, guys, if you have firefighter in your life, firefighter friends or family, and you want to get them a special little something that is firefighter related, go to gettingsaltyapparel.com to support us and support the show. Thank you.
Super chat. Don't forget to hit him up with the super chat, Pete.
Oh, the super chat, guys. The super chat. If you have a question that absolutely, positively must be answered, or if you guys, I'm just saying, you want to throw us a couple shekels to keep things rolling. I'm just saying,
Couple shekels.
I'm trying to buy like some furniture if I get a new house or something. You know what I'm saying? Help me out. Come on. Help me out, Henry. Henry, help me out. All right,
guys. Anyway. So let's get him in here. He's already in here. No surprises. Everybody knew. We have, not only was he a firefighter back in the war years, in the heyday, getting it done in the South Bronx, he is an acclaimed writer, and most of you have read his book. I've read it 3 or 4 times myself, sent to me by my buddy Randy Simon. With Report from Engine Company 82, we have Mr. Dennis Smith. There he is.
We got a chuckle out of him finally.
Welcome to the show, Dennis. Thanks for coming on. Appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure.
So let's get right into it. I know we talked about it a little bit in the pre-show that you got on the job in '63. But what drove you to the fire department? Did you have any family in the fire service? What made you want to become a fireman?
No. Well, I was a poor kid in the tenements, like all of us. We were neighborhood kids, and I noticed that 2 guys in the neighborhood, one a cop, one a fireman, and they were both enviable, really. They both had good jobs, nice kids, the whole ball of wax. And so I took both exams and passed both. And I got to the investigation of the NYPD, which was saying something. But,
I was going to say, you look surprised that you made it.
Yeah, well, I mean, where I grew up on the East Side was truly the old East Side of New York. the whole north end of the street, 56th Street, was tenement buildings from one end to the other.
Right.
And except that you got toward the end of the block, they went from 5 stories to 3 stories. And there was a lot of crooked things going on. But
Nice.
I always felt that 2 things saved my life. And the first was my dear old ma, my mother, and who was a single mom, and she worked hard bringing up my brother and me. And the other was Kips Bay Boys and Girls Club. It wasn't a girls' club then; it was just boys' club on 52nd Street. I was on the board of Boys and Girls Clubs of America for a long, long time. It's a great organization, and it was a life send to me because it got me into that building, doing things like swimming and playing basketball and ping pong, and
Keeping you off the street.
I was going to say, kept you off the street.
Absolutely off the street. So anyway, that was the neighborhood, and that's where I come from. And so when I got to be 20 years old, I decided that I would take both tests. And in those days, they give a new test every year, So I took both tests, passed both tests, and it's just a matter of accident, truly, and good fortune that the FDNY called me first.
Right. So you got called in, let's say, 1963, you said, and you went to Engine 292 with Rescue 4 over on Queens Boulevard out of Proby School, correct? I guess you really didn't know anybody back then. So they sent you over to 292.
It was a nice firehouse. I liked it. I enjoyed it.
Right.
But and I was working for a master's degree, and I took my time.
Right.
And I got the master's degree, and then I decided I wanted a more active company. So Engine 82 at that time was at the top of the list.
Is that how you picked them? You just picked them by who was the busiest? You didn't know anything about the firehouse? You just...
I had no idea about the firehouse. I mean, how bad could it be? It was a busy firehouse like that.
Yeah.
You're going to meet great guys in those firehouses, without a doubt.
Right.
They don't have time to think,
Right.
So they can only be nice guys.
Right. So let's just back up a little bit. You were going to NYU for your master's, right? What were you going for? Was it in writing or was it in?
Yes, communications.
Communications, right? NYU. So
I had a NYU bachelor's degree in English.
And then you went for your master's in communication.
Yes.
Right. While you were working on the job.
Yes.
Wow.
And I was working a second job too.
As a limo driver.
As a limo driver, right. I drove limos.
Yeah. Awesome. So you're there from 63 till about 67, right? And how did you get 82? Did you have to call a rabbi? What'd you do? How'd you get up there?
Yeah. The way to do it, I called Tommy Riley, the renowned Tommy Riley in the Union. And he is, to me, always was the fixer. If you need anything done.
If you need anything done, you call the fixer.
If you need anything done, Tommy Riley.
That's freaking great.
Could get it done. And so he got me transferred right away the next week.
Really? It was that?
I found myself on 169th Street and Intervale Avenue.
I was just going to say, Intervale Avenue, you had, now when you got there, you had 82, 85, 31.
No, when I got there, it was a plain old firehouse of 82 and 31.
Okay, so when did 85 and TCU, what is it, 712 move in there?
Yeah, TCU, Tactical Control Unit. I would say 2 years. So that's 63, 64, 65, like that.
Right.
And then the really tough years, 67, 68, that's when the community changed. The attitudes within the community changed. The politics of New York changed. And so it was a hard thing for the fire department to reckon with, because they were stretched to their capacity. And you look at all of those companies around me, 73 engine, 50 engine. They were really busy companies. And so they went to their capacity.
Right.
And so Engine 82, they had to put another engine in there because just to answer the alarms. Right.
How long did it take you, Dennis, to catch your first job? If you can remember, like when you first got there, was the first tour that you worked there? Do you remember?
Yeah, I wish I could remember. I do recollect the first job was on Intervale Avenue, actually, down towards Southern Boulevard. And it was a DOA. And that's all I remember of that job. I remember the woman had a wig on. And so when I moved ahead, the
wig fell off?
The wig moved. So I thought that she was, fall apart on.
The skin was falling off.
Yeah,
so they were
they
were doing 9,000 calls. You say in the book, right? When you get
9,600.
96. So you say now back then a third was false alarm, a third were emergencies, but a third of those were actual fires that you went to. So
you went to 2 or 3 fires a day.
2 or 3 fires a day, every day, right? Yeah,
and that's, it was like I think of it as a disease, a cancer, in that the more fires there were, the more buildings became abandoned.
Right.
And the more landlords said, I'm not going to put up with this anymore, and just, they flew the coop and left the tenants on their own. And so the tenants had a hard time. And as soon as a vacant apartment went vacant, it caused another empty apartment caused more fires.
Right.
And because they always used those vacant apartments and then set fire to them. So it was dangerous for the people living in the building, but it grew. And, 2 weeks from then, or 3 weeks, there'd be another apartment another. And then so all of a sudden the whole building was vacant.
So like you said, it's like a cancer. It was just spreading.
Just like a cancer.
And it wasn't unheard of that you would go back sometimes to the same apartment multiple times, right? If it wasn't uncommon for you to go back to the same apartment or the same building multiple times, correct?
Oh, yeah, very, very common. 2743 was the box at Charlotte 170, and just like remembering your Social Security
that number kept coming up over and over and over again, right?
Yeah. I mean, we went there 3 or 4 times a night anyway, and so and the kids in the neighborhood who were impolite, they couldn't pass by a fire alarm box without reaching up and pulling it down,
Impolite, that's a good word.
Yeah.
Impolite.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, so you're on 1213 Intervale Avenue, right? Engine 82 and 31, and then later on, 85 and TCU 712. I want to ask you.
Firehouse. It was just Charlie McCarthy died last week.
Yes.
His funeral was last week. I couldn't go because I can't travel. But I really miss going there because I know I'd see everybody from 82 and 31. And it was reported then, and I watched the video. It was as big as a department funeral. I mean, there were
Really?
hundreds
Yes,
of guys
it
showed
was.
up. For that
Yes.
funeral.
Yep.
He was supposed to
And,
actually come on the show, Dennis. Like, right, Ruffy? You had him booked.
Yeah,
to
he
come
was
on the
coming. He lived
Really?
down in Florida.
He
His
would have
son-
made you laugh anyway.
Yeah.
if he came.
Yeah. His son actually went down to Florida to do the logistics, to get to get him on the the camera and the computer and all that stuff. But because it was still COVID, the only place that they had the camera was in like a common area, so we weren't able to do it. So
Right.
he had called me and told me that we won't be able to do it. But during the summer, they would get together. He comes up here, I guess, to New York, and we would do it then. And unfortunately, he passed away.
Yeah. Anyway, even the great companies lose men, and so Charlie was not the first to go from that firehouse, but he was certainly one of the best. And I talk to him every couple of weeks, and you put that in your life, when you have those friendships.
Yep.
Oh
And
yeah.
they are they're like anchors and balancers, wings, no matter what you call them, but they are so good for you. And it's one of the things I've always remembered because, I have a degree in English literature. And so I read an awful lot of William Butler Yeats. But and he said, though you earn your shining days and voices among the praise and new friends busy with your praise, think about old friends the most. For life's bitter tide will rise, your beauty will be lost for all eyes but these eyes. The point being simply that you never lose your old friends, even when you lose them.
Yeah. Nice.
Hey,
So-
listen. While we're talking about Yeats, I have something written down here that you mentioned. You mentioned in your book when I believe it was Nick Rizzo got hit with the brick when he was riding the sideboard, right?
Yes.
So you referred back to Yeats, and you were talking about what can be done with. You talk about wise men and violence. You were talking about that in the book. Did we lose him?
Oh, he's down.
Yeah. Right. So you had said something in there that really. I mean, we're going to talk about it a little bit because you also got hit in the eye with a rock, right, while you were riding the back step. But something that you said in that book really stood out to me. It says, what can be done with people who throw bricks at the very men who are the most committed to protecting the lives of the brick throwers? So to me, when I read that, it's just right.
It's ironic.
Yeah, I mean, it really, these kids are throwing bricks and rocks and whatever at the very people who are coming to help them or save them, save their lives or save whatever it is. So when you mentioned Yeats, that you read Yeats in the book, you had wrote that, that you went up to your locker and you thumbed through a Yeats poem and you found out, the one they're talking about wise men and reverting to violence and stuff like that, because that's how you felt when your friend got hit in the chest with a brick riding the sideboard of the rig.
Yeah, it was dangerous neighborhood. We had a bulletin board on the place in the firehouse at the entrance. It's still there, going into 82 engine, and it's maybe 6 inches thick. And I was leaning against this wall of the doors, and all of a sudden, some guy comes running by, and there's a whole bunch of shots. And then after I look, there's 2 bullet holes in the thing right
Miss
next to
him
me.
by that much.
Yeah.
I said, "Yeah, God,
Holy
I don't want." They were disability bullets, that's for sure.
You don't want to go that way.
Those are 3/4 bullets right there.
Those might be 4 bullets. That's it. You ain't coming out of that one.
Yeah, but that was not like uncommon, right? Where people were throwing stuff at you while you were because
Or
back
shooting.
then you were
Yeah,
riding the
I
back
had-
step, right?
I had always mixed emotions. There are, I don't know what the percentage is, but I'm going to use a percentage of about 90% of the people in that neighborhood were decent people with families who got up, they had their jobs, they were a subway conductor or whatever they were, and they went to work and they sent their kids to school and tried to discipline them when they played hooky.
Right.
But that 10% was enough people to create havoc in that neighborhood.
Right.
And we saw it from our point of view, from the abandoned buildings and the fires. But the police officers at Fort Apache, the 41st Precinct, they didn't have time to do anything because, every day there was 10 new assaults and 2 new rapes and 14 new armed robberies. So it kept building and building and building. But then there were not more cops and more cops and more cops. They had to deal with everything. So it was hard all around. But especially if you want me to continue that sentence, it was hard all around us, but especially for those hardworking, decent people.
Yeah.
I would say that was the same in East New York, Dennis, in Brooklyn. Was the same thing. Every time you would go to a house, you would always, a lot of times you would find good people who just were, down. They were just getting beat down from the percentage of people. I would think it was more than 10%, but the people who were running the neighborhood, right? They were running the neighborhood, whether it was a gang or just, however it works out. It just those are the people that really run the neighborhoods, and that's what makes everything go to crap.
Yeah, but I felt about the fire department then, as I feel now, that it is a crucial service. You can't do without it. When the civilizations like Egypt and Greece first began, 300 years before Christ, they had to organize ways to fight fires. And if they didn't organize ways to fight fires, their whole village would burn up and it'd be gone. And so that's what they did. That's the birth of the volunteer fire department. And you have to deal with the fire department. You have to deal with that issue of fire, and then it grows into the issue of arson. When all of a sudden there's a buck to be made because all of those buildings that went vacant in the South Bronx, block after block after block of them, many of them were insured, and they were deliberately set fire to for the insurance, and so it just made it worse.
Yeah.
But anyway, but you talk to any of the firemen, you go to even like 73 engine and 42 truck, you ask those guys about what it was like to work in that firehouse, and they'd say I would pay to go there every day. And that's true of 82 and 31 and the companies you worked in. Every time I see the commissioner, Dan Nigro, if it wasn't a conflict of interest, I always want to, pay him $20 for giving me.
Might need a zero at the end of that one, Dennis. I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, forgive me the greatest days of my life.
We say that all the time, right? I would pay to do this job, right, Roof? Like when you're on vacation, you can't wait to get back to work.
Yeah, that's true. So I was blessed that we all were blessed by being a part of FDNY. I get up in the morning, and one of the things I say now, I tell my children, look, I'm FDNY trained, and I can do anything. It's that simple.
I like it. Yeah, I like it.
And we don't often think about the things we learned in probie school or as probies in the firehouse. And, learning modesty. The greatest lesson you learn as a probie is modesty, right?
Yep.
You don't,
Yeah.
you don't rise above your station, as they say. But
I like that.
that brings you right into the fold of that firehouse, and it's a great system, and it's been in place for a couple hundred years.
Name some guys from there, Dennis, that stick out to you when you think of Engine 82 early on. Were there guys that helped you?
Or 31 truck. Yeah,
or 31. Truck. Guys who you looked up to initially when you were young.
Well, like Vinnie Bolin, or do you remember Vinnie Bolin, anybody? No. He was an officer in the UFOA, but he was a great fireman. Tommy Anello, Billy O'Mara, Louis Andrade. It's a dangerous environment when you start naming people's names.
You're gonna forget somebody.
The names that you used in the book, were those real names, like Vinnie Royce?
They were very close. Like Charlie McCarty was McCarty,
right? And Vinnie Royce and Lieutenant Welsh, they were like close, or
Vinnie Joyce and Lieutenant Welsh. So the reason why I changed the names, in retrospect, I should have kept the names and just said, well, if you don't like it, sue me, because it was a tribute to them, those men. But the publisher wouldn't let me unless I had signed releases from everybody.
He was protecting himself.
Forget about it. There's so many names in that book. You would have to get so many signatures. Forget it.
Yeah. But anyway, everybody knows who they were and who they are. And I still see them occasionally. And I haven't been to that firehouse in maybe 5 years. But the last time I was there, they gave me lunch. I didn't have to pay.
Well, that's good.
That's always
You're on a fixed income, kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was nice. It was excellent.
Is he there?
Yeah, he's there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. What the hell? You also, we're talking about the character or what makes a fireman, right? And you mentioned that one of the biggest thing about firemen is reliability. No matter what, when you call, they come, right? There's no thought. There is no question. When
you're really scary. That's a little scary. That's somewhat scary.
Not even that, Roof. There's not even the you can't see anything in a fire. That's a given, right? Anybody who goes to real fires knows you can't see anything. So you don't know what the sex is, the gender, the color, the race, the religion. You don't know any of that, right? You're just going based on the fact that you're reliable, and this is what you do. You're going to save people. It doesn't matter what they are, right?
It's true, of course, that the firefighter has just he's mission oriented. If there's a job, the first thing he's thinking of, is there a victim? And so when he makes his search, if you're in the truck company, what the search is automatic. The same thing you do in every room. Go along one room, one next room, under the beds with your hook or your Halligan. The thing is, you're thinking not, is there an African American victim in this room? You just think, is there a person in this room,
right,
who maybe is at the last breath, and you got to get him if and you're very close to it. So you think of it as colorless. I mean, I think my own observations and my memories of the New York Fire Department was, there are sort of the guys that grew up in the tough neighborhoods and they have racial stereotypes and they think of it in that way as a stereotype. And,
Some cars are comfy on the inside, but don't have power on the outside. And some cars have the horsepower, but none of the comfort. I used to think there weren't any cars that were the total package. But that all changed when I got my Honda SUV. It's rugged and sophisticated, and right now, Honda has deals on the entire Honda SUV lineup. CR-V, HR-V, Pilot, Passport, you name it. So if you're looking for a car that's the total package, the only place you'll find it is at your local Honda dealer. Hurry before they're all gone.
Peacock is streaming your favorite shows, movies, live sports, breaking news, exclusive originals, and every live WWE pay-per-view. It's The Office, Chris Lee Knows Best, and Peacock original shows like Punky Brewster. Peacock, watch for free, upgrade for more. Stream now at peacocktv.com.
But I think that's part of the past. I don't think that exists anymore. And firefighters are. I wish I can get everybody to go to a firehouse picnic. Because then you'd see these kids, these little ones, and you'd see how they act with their mother and father. And you see the kids, the little boys, put their hands on their hips and they say no. And it's in their personality. And you say, oh, good for you, buddy. You're going to grow up to be a big fireman.
Yeah. Refrano. No, I won't do it.
Yeah.
Well, I never lose. I can tell you, I go to Barbara Hill and Lee Ielpi give me dinner once a week. And I go there and you talk about being grounded. I get great meals. Doesn't cost a penny. And,
Nice.
and a great conversation about the job. So once a week, I have this really deep conversation about jobs. And of course, Lee, I ask you too, so he knows what it's like to be in a job. And I'm sure if he's watching this, he's waiting on what he's going to say something now about the difference in quantity and quality. The difference in the quality and quantity of fire.
Yeah.
And but he's a fireman's fireman.
Oh, no doubt. We're trying to get him. We're going to get him, hopefully.
Now we got the in with Dennis. We plant the little bird, and Dennis is here. Hey, get Lee on the show.
No, he'd be a great guest for you.
Yeah.
And so anyway, the thing is, that's good for me. It gives me a time to keep my thoughts alive about how important FDNY is in my life still, and continues to be every time I sit down with Lee Ielpi. I still on boards. I just started a foundation. I haven't launched it yet, but you will be the first to know.
Yeah, we'll get it out. We'll get it out there for you. We'll spread the word.
I started a foundation for firefighters, police officers, and registered nurses. I'll tell you why I did that. It's based on the Honor Emergency Fund of FDNY. That was a fund. So you probably don't even know much about it, right? You don't hear much about the Honor Emergency Fund, but they're always there for the firemen. If you need something, if you get stuck, whatever your personal story is, the Honor Emergency Fund has got their ears open and they'll listen to you. Now, that was founded in 1922.
Oh, wow. I didn't know it was that old. I've heard about it in the past. For guys, they'll use it for guys who are really in a jam with medical bills. So
it's 100 years old.
Wow.
And it's some guy, a deep pockets citizen of New York, loved the fire department. And he gave them the money to create the foundation. And it's grown and it's still existing 100 years later. God love him. So I did that for firemen all over the country based on the Honor Emergency Fund. it's biting off a lot, and but I'm confident I can find people to run it. So I just did this last couple of weeks.
Incredible.
And so it's going to take me at least a year to get it off the ground. But anyway, I should be doing these things. If I have the ability to do them, I should do it, because you can't do, in my estimation, enough for the New York firemen. Now, there are bosses, who are tougher than other bosses, as you know, and I remember reputations of people who had terrible reputations as being unfair and prejudiced, and who, if you got in trouble, is the worst guy to be involved with. But that really is the exception. In the fire department, the managers, say the deputy chief's son, and his deputy assistants, those people have not forgotten what it's like to be a fireman.
Right.
And most of them look at the chief of department today was I'm just got to think of his name. Hold on.
Richardson,
just writing about him recently. Yeah. John T. Richardson. He was captain of rescue too. So these guys know what it's like. Some of them spent all their time in the beach, with their feet in the sand, studying for the captain's exam. Well, that's okay, but
that's all right.
But a lot of them spent their time in the busy companies, and to them, it was the accumulation of this fire experience that will make them a good boss.
Right.
And that's why Richardson is the chief of department today.
Yeah, no doubt about it, and he's the best.
So, yeah,
he's a great guy too.
Well, that's the same thing in the military, Dennis. Right? Those guys who were generals, and they come. Some became presidents. Some, those guys are always going to be leaders, right? And if you're in the trenches, people definitely give you more respect. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, I love the military. I tell you, it was the best thing that ever happened to me. It gave me a new kind of discipline in my own life, with a focused discipline, where there was no excuse. You had to be there,
Yeah, hell yeah.
You had to be there. 0900, you got to be in that line, and I love that discipline in my life, and it taught me quite a lot.
Yeah.
You worked with probably some World War II vets, right? When you were on the job?
Yeah, mostly Vietnam.
Vietnam vets, yeah. Or Korea.
Or Korea.
So,
but the Korean guys were getting out of the job then.
Well, so those guys were squared away, though, right? Those guys that you worked with, no doubt.
Yeah, we have great guys. To me, I don't see the distinguishing factors except in the way they live their lives. I mean, you can't tell by looking at a fireman on the back of a truck or the side of a truck. People, they're not on the back anymore, Dennis. But you can't tell one from the other. You don't know who was in the military or not.
Right.
But somehow, you understand, you've internalized that they're all reliable, each and every one of them. And that goes back to my saying, I'm FDNY trained and I can do anything. And I rely on that so often, and even in my writing, I rely on that.
Right.
Hey,
I wanted to ask you, there are a couple. I'm sorry, again, Roof.
No, I was just thinking. I don't know if we're going to get ahead of this, but how was the response from the guys in the firehouse when it became after the book started selling and you started to get some fame? How was the response from the guys? Was it you know, you're not obviously not going to make everybody happy, but was it good? Were you the
Well,
goat?
I'll tell you, I don't
How-
remember. The only bad thing I remember, there was just one thing, and that's why I remember it. I was on the Malachi McCourt show. Did you ever hear of him?
No.
Malachi McCourt. Frank McCourt wrote Angela's Ashes. Anyway, Malachi McCourt had a radio show. And I went up and I did a show and talking about whatever. And then I left and I put on the radio, and Malachi was on the radio in my car. I'm driving home, and then some guy calls. I don't think it's a fireman. At least I hope it wasn't. Who said, you know that guy you had on, Dennis Smith? He didn't write that book, you know. I know the guy who wrote it for him. And Malachi says, oh, is that right? He says, absolutely, I was there. He didn't write that book. I know who wrote it. And, you know, I wanted to screech on the brakes and reach for my shotgun. So, but that's the only bad thing that ever happened to me. The firemen were all pretty good. They recognized that this was a very big event to have a book high up on the bestsellers list for so long.
Yeah.
And I didn't think that it was enough because I had these 2 degrees and I did nothing but study all my life. So I didn't think one book was enough to gain like notoriety or could carry you for the rest of your life. And it's not. I mean, I know it's not. I'd like, when I've written 18 now, working on my 18th book.
Wow.
So I just feel that's what I do. I'm a writer, so I have an idea and I write a book. You know, one of the most pleasant experiences I've had, I went out to live in San Francisco for 6 months, and I wrote a book called San Francisco is Burning about the 1906 earthquake and fire. It was the biggest fire in American history, you know, still. Over 3,000 buildings burned. So, but I loved it because San Francisco was such a socially elite city. You know, it had all these private clubs and all of that. And then it gave me an opportunity to write about the Silver Kings and the Gold Kings and all of that stuff. And lo and behold, no matter how big you get in life, you know, your building is going to burn down.
Yeah.
Nice. I like it.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question. What was the precipice to this writing this book? What brought it about? Did somebody approach you, or you had this in mind that you were going to write this book?
Yeah, no, they approached me. I'll tell you why. It goes back to, we were talking about William Butler Yeats. I'm writing about this now too. Joyce Carol Oates is a very prominent American writer. I know her, she's a very nice woman. And she said, she wrote in the New York Times Book Review that William Butler Yeats had transcended his Irishness and that he was truly a universal poet. Well, I thought that was, there's a word in Irish called blather, B-L-A-T-H-E-R. And I thought that was a lot of blather. And so I wrote.
What would you call it in Italian?
Wait a minute, I know the answer to that.
A fangul.
So anyway, well, now I've completely lost my train of thought.
You were talking about the woman who wrote in the
how the book came about. Yeah.
Yeah. So I sat down in the firehouse and I wrote a letter to the New York Times and said, in the letter I said William Butler Yeats was.
Some cars are comfy on the inside, but don't have power on the outside. And some cars have the horsepower, but none of the comfort. I used to think there weren't any cars that were the total package. But that all changed when I got my Honda SUV. It's rugged and sophisticated, and right now, Honda has deals on the entire Honda SUV lineup. CR-V, HR-V, Pilot, Passport, you name it. So if you're looking for a car that's the total package, the only place you'll find it is at your local Honda dealer. Hurry before they're all gone.
Fundamentally Irish, that all of his sensibilities and his attitudes and cultural assumptions, they were all Irish. And I can give you example after example, and I gave some. And anyway, the New York Times thought it was very interesting, I think only because I had wrote it illegally on FDNY stationery. Okay?
That's a no-no.
and I didn't sign the captain's name, thank God.
Oh shit!
But they suspect there's a New York City fireman, and so I got a letter from a publishing company, E.P. Dutton, who said, "Have you ever considered writing a book?" This is a fireman who had this knowledge, specialized knowledge in Irish poetry,
Mm-hmm.
And
this was a fireman who could put more than 2 sentences together, and they were like, "I got it."
It was a kind of a reverse snobbery, if you want to know the truth, And
I like it.
So I don't care. It goes back to my my saying. I'm FDNY trained. I can put up with anything, You get people from the New York Times who I don't think are much good at anything that they do, but I can put up with it, and it doesn't bother me.
Yeah, put those guys in the firehouse kitchen, see how they do, right? They'll be crying like babies.
Yeah, well, listen, you can talk about Julius Caesar in the firehouse kitchen, or Alexander the Great. And there's somebody sitting down in that kitchen and say, "Yeah, but can you make a flat?"
See, making the back room.
Yeah, that's right. Will he make the last room?
That's it.
And so, what can you do? That's the way it is.
Yeah,
but that's what's great about the fire department.
Oh man, is it? Yeah,
that's the best part.
Yeah. So what I wanted to ask you too is a couple of times in the book you mentioned it seems like the control man and the doorman were the only guys who took the mask. That the nozzle man and the backup went in first without the mask, and then the 2 guys behind him came in with masks. Is that how it worked back then?
Pretty much. I had to be careful about that because, quite frankly, I used to think then, if you run the knob in a job and, this is a blowback, a ceiling came down or a wall fell over or whatever the story is, you say to yourself, this is a very dangerous job. And we make it even more dangerous by not adhering to the safety regs,
Yeah.
And so we never wore a mask because, like real men don't eat quiche. You know what I mean? If you're a real man,
no doubt.
If you're a real man, you don't need a mask.
Right.
Yeah.
And so then the idea of taking a beating, put that in quotes, taking a beating. That's what we said. Taking a beating became the requirement for your work, and you did it willingly, and and you were willing to sit in the hallway later on with your coat over your shoulders and your helmet on your.
And the snot pouring out of your nose.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was all a piece of the universe. Not all fires were like that, of course. Some fires are easy enough. But you learn as a probie in that if you have at least an experienced guy with you, it doesn't matter a busy company or not. If you got an experienced guy with you and he cares about you and wants you to learn, you'll learn very fast that that a food in the stove can be as snotty,
Nasty.
as an all hands fire.
Yeah, no doubt about that.
So, what was the purpose of the other two guys taking the mast then?
Well, I think that I wanted to show that somebody was paying attention.
All right, I got it.
Well, if the other guys got jammed up and they couldn't, whatever, then the two other guys would be behind them to back them up.
I felt that you needed somebody there with a mask, just because if you didn't, I think there's a good chance that people would never believe anything you said. For instance, we had a guy. We're not naming names in this show, right? So
You can name.
I know I can, but I wouldn't do this to a guy. But we had a guy come into the firehouse and transferred. He was lifted. So that was in those days. Yeah, that was in those days when if you lift somebody into the busiest company in New York, you got to be a really bad boy.
Push him right out of the job.
Yeah, he came. I liked him, actually. He had a great personality. But he announced one night in the kitchen, which is the center of democracy for the fire department.
Exactly.
He said one night, I put out 26 rooms of fire by myself with 1 3/4 long. 26 rooms. So we thought that was outrageous enough to organize a lynching. So we threw a rope around him and tied him up, and then pulled him up the pole hole. And then
Dumped a bucket of water on him.
No, the hose.
Oh.
So we took the hose out of the engine refilling spout.
Oh, right.
And got him nice and wet so he couldn't move one way or another. Anyway, things like that happen. You can, you meet guys who say things like that. You just, you let it go 99% of the time. But that 1% you say, it's just too much. You were a little over.
A little over the top. A little over the top there.
Yeah.
Little left. Should have left the 2 off.
Well, I mean,
where was he going? What place has 26 rooms anyway? Where was he in 5? 26 rooms. Places don't exist. What are you talking about? 26 rooms. You can write a book about just what happens at the kitchen table. You even got to put fires in there.
Yeah. You don't even have to.
I could write a book about that.
Yeah.
Dennis, who are you? Do you remember any of the bosses there that stick out to you?
Yes, I do. There was a guy named Nick Leibrock. He was a battalion chief, and he was the sort of quintessential fire chief in that he was really good at what he did. He knew how to size up a building. He knew when from the first moment whether he was going to have all hands working or not. Whether he could handle it with 2 and 2. I came from those days when a lot of battalion chiefs didn't want to have
all hands or something. Right?
All hands working because the deputy
showed up. So everything was 10:30,
2 and 2.
Right? Yeah. 2 and 2.
So anyway, Nick Leibrock was very steady, and I liked him a lot. And I'm sure that he was much older when I was on the job, so I'm sure he's not active anymore. But a great guy.
Cool.
Who was Captain Frimes?
There's a photograph of me, and I didn't know how to send you photographs. I don't know how to lift photographs out of a website and send them. But
I got some, but
I sent Pete some photographs.
Well, this is a photograph of Louis Andrade in Engine 82 in front of the pumper in the interior of the firehouse. Well, anyway,
nope.
I know that's not it, but I got the photo of the engine.
Yeah. Well, anyway, in this photo, let me see that. I can't see.
Look at those buildings in the back.
The second one down. Second one down. Yeah, that one there.
Yep.
Well, you see, that's Bill Grimes, the captain. He was a great captain. I admired him. I didn't like him very much, but I admired him.
You know what? I got to start using that.
I like that, bro. You didn't like him, but
I didn't like you, but I admired you. I admire you. I respected you.
Look, up right by the canopy is a former fire commissioner.
With his leg up? The guy with his leg up?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Rivera.
That's Rivera. Carlos Rivera. I could see his face there. Look at it. Go up, Pete.
Up, Petey, up.
To the right. Yeah, that's Carlos
Rivera.
His face.
Wow.
And two over is me. That's Vinnie Joyce behind him. That's Millislaw. Millie. He became a captain, and God knows the company was in trouble when he became a captain. But the next guy is Richie Rittmeyer. Look at him. He's like a model. He was like the essence
he's got good hair. Yeah, he's got
of
good
a tall, good-looking fireman.
Yeah.
And then down below, there's Mickey May, who was the president of the union.
Yeah.
The fourth guy in.
Yeah.
And
hey, look, there's no cab on that rig.
Vinnie Bowen always says about this photograph that he was driving. So, God rest his soul. Vinnie Bowen's another one of the greats.
That's a great picture.
What street was it on? It's got cobblestones.
The Intervale Avenue had cobblestones.
I gotcha.
Hey, my street had cobblestones when I was a kid, Pete.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Huh.
And so somebody in the neighborhood
how was it working with the plug uglies, Kev?
What was that, Dennis?
I said until the cobblestones were there until somebody recognized that a junkyard will give you $4 each.
Yeah, piece.
Yeah. No kidding.
They started pulling them out of the ground. Yeah. Yep.
Look at that picture of 82. Go back to that one on the top picture, PD. Look at the buildings in the back.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord.
It looks like the windows are all smoke stained. What?
Mm-hmm.
And they're all vacant. Look at all the windows.
They're all vacant.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
What the hell?
And they were in good shape, those buildings.
Dennis, how was the rapid water?
I swear to God, you had to mix the rapid water with but I never had a can of rapid water in my life ever. So I don't even know how it worked.
Yeah. I bet you 25 guys would probably say that. Oh my God. Yeah. It was that was an additive that they added, right? To make the water slip through the hose faster, right? Or something
it made the water more efficient, they said.
Right. It's supposed to cut down on friction. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but I didn't think that it made any difference to the fire.
You got a cool flame on the door. That was cool.
Yeah.
You know what I wanted to ask you a little bit about, Dennis, was we had talked about this in an older show where we thought that what made the Warriors so busy, and we talked to Joe Carney, you probably know Joe, and it was a perfect storm of the landlords getting all this insurance money. As long as they paid their premiums, they could put whatever they wanted the building to be worth. If the building was worth $500,000, they could put $5 million as long as they were paying their premium. The the programs that the city was running, as far as if you burnt yourself out of your apartment, you got put to the top of the list for government subsidized housing, and also basically, we.
Some cars are comfy on the inside, but don't have power on the outside. And some cars have the horsepower, but none of the comfort. I used to think there weren't any cars that were the total package. But that all changed when I got my Honda SUV. It's rugged and sophisticated. And right now, Honda has deals on the entire Honda SUV lineup. CR-V, HR-V, Pilot, Passport, you name it. So if you're looking for a car that's the total package, the only place you'll find it is at your local Honda dealer. Hurry before they're all gone.
Streaming only on Peacock.
John Wayne Gacy killed 32.
Straight from the killer's mouth.
They want you to believe that I alone committed these murders.
The new gripping 6-part documentary series, John Wayne Gacy, Devil in Disguise. All episodes streaming now, only on Peacock.
Threw around the idea that maybe that the city was somehow partially to blame or negligent in the fact that they wanted the city to burn down to rebuild.
Well, that was Bobby Wagner's proposal. And he even said it in a speech one night. There was a sort of a planned reduction of the city houses, and he knew that for every house, every building that burned down in the South Bronx, those 4 times, say 24 or 34 families had to go somewhere. And so where they went was Mount Vernon or Yonkers, you know? And so that was only good for New York City. And Bobby Wagner felt it was a good policy to let these fires burn.
Right.
And so that it was it was never in paper on writing.
Right.
But that was it was evidently the city's policy to have a planned burning of the city.
Yeah, let it burn down. Let the people relocate, and we'll rebuild the city how we want to rebuild the city.
And you're absolutely right what you said about the insurance. There were a lot of insurance scams that were built around these, some of the buildings with maybe it was only 10% occupied building. 10%, 90% of the apartments were already burnt out. Mm-hmm. But still, the landlord, if he showed ownership of the building, he could say that it was 100% occupied.
Right.
Who was going to pay attention to it? Nobody.
Right. So that perfect storm is what really made those the war years, right? Where you guys were just running from fire to fire to fire.
Yeah. And well, just think about it. Think about your own experiences. You got to know the guys who were second and third due at jobs.
Right.
You got to know them as well as you know the guys in your own firehouse.
Yeah, you know what? That's if you see them all the time.
Because you see them all the time. Right.
That's true.
So let's talk about a little bit. We talked about it briefly in the pre-show. O'Hagan. He was the chief of department back then, right?
John T. O'Hagan.
Yeah.
38 years old, he was chief of department.
Wow.
And then he decided in a couple of years that he'd be a good commissioner. So he took both jobs. He was the first person ever to be both jobs. Dan Nigro, of course, was chief of department and commissioner, but not at the same time.
Right.
He could have had it if he wanted it. I think people respected him enough. So, but O'Hagan was without a doubt a very smart guy. He wrote a good book, and whose title escapes me at the moment. But he in that book he talked about the danger of glass buildings, that the fire area, the confined spaces were not confined enough to call it a fire-safe environment. So, and he was very much against the building of the World Trade Center.
Right.
You know, he wrote letters. He testified, and he was against it. He said this building is not safe.
He was right, evidently.
That's right. Yeah.
So what is the story with him? Like, it really depends on who you talk to. Great guy, innovator, not a great guy. So, I mean, was he just a polarizing type of guy, or?
Well, I think he had a very he reminded me of the old Irish guys who don't say very much, but their mind is always clicking at 100 miles an hour. John O'Hagan, I think he was very definitely mindful of everything in the fire department.
Mm-hmm.
He was a great commissioner and a great fire chief, and he had his standards and he stood up for them, and he was a little bit because of the amount of power that was vested into him, he was a little bit arrogant, and it's an easy thing to be arrogant in the fire department. It's not hard, and it's not. It's never good, you know.
Never good. It's never good.
No, and
humble, baby, humble.
Yeah, I think you got to be. You know, there's the old thing. You got to be one of the guys, and that's not. It's not any more true in any place than in the fire department,
Right?
Because it's what makes the machine work, and but if you can follow, you know, I was in the bagpipe band.
I did.
No, I didn't know that. No.
Well, I was on the Ed Sullivan Show.
Right after the Beatles, we have the.
No, it's true. Right after the Beatles, but we did FDNY. Jimmy McLaughlin was the bandmaster, and he died on St. Patrick's Day. God love him.
That's a tall. That's a big guy, right?
Yeah, the big guy in the front, and he. The night before, it's a Sunday night at Sullivan Show. The Saturday night before, he was working. I think he was in 48 truck. He was working, and he made a great grab. And
really?
Luckily, there was somebody from the Daily News who showed up at this job, and they had him with somebody. I don't remember the particulars, but Ed Sullivan put his picture in the news down on the screen, and everybody was applauding. It was great.
That's great.
Cool.
But that's the fire department was best seen, I think, from the bagpipe band, because the bagpipe band, you couldn't do any bad, no evil.
Yeah, no, yeah.
You know, everybody.
You can find that clip, Petey.
Even today, they still,
It's on YouTube.
Great, they're a great representation of the fire department. You know, they really are.
Yeah. So I know it's on YouTube somewhere. The Ed Sullivan Show. That the FDNY was three times on the
Ed Sullivan Show, really?
Yeah.
How long did you do that for, Dennis?
What year you said again?
I have no idea.
All right.
Just put that.
How long did you do that for, Dennis?
But I mean, the band was on 3 times, not me. I was on once.
Oh.
You see, and but the one time I was on is on YouTube.
We'll check it. We'll find it.
I saw it once, but there are 2 other times on YouTube too, where I am not.
Right.
So anyway.
If okay.
But I used to go to those competitions with the firemen, with the band, and it was great. You know, these It was like being in the firehouse kitchen, except you were on a bus. You know?
No doubt.
And it was
And listen, the
inescapable.
firehouse kitchen table travels, bro. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but it was
We call that
inescapable.
shenanigans, Dennis. That's
You know,
Yeah.
you say at least in the firehouse you can go to another room.
yeah.
You can go to
You're locked
the
out.
apparatus store,
Not on a bus.
but
Hey,
on a bus you're stuck.
Hey Dennis, like so in that era of the war years, all right, where you think that the city, because what they're doing, really at the end of the day is putting firemen in harm's way by not by incentivizing people to burn themselves out, incentivizing landlords to collect insurance and stuff like that. Was there a chief that sticks out in your head that was like really for the guys, that was, that went to bat for the guys, that went against the system for the guys that you can remember anyway?
No, I mean, there must have been. I think Bob Lowry. Do you remember him? He was the first black commissioner.
Nope.
He was a fire marshal,
Right.
and it's just because I was in the his company a few times when he really complained about the fact that firemen have to put up with certain things.
Right.
I would like to say what those things are, but I can't think of them offhand. But you see, I never thought firemen should clean the firehouse. And they say, well, you clean the firehouse because it's where you live, stupid,
Right.
But I never agreed with that. I just thought the city should hire a building maintenance man
Well, I think
to
they
work
do
at the
that
firehouse.
in the precincts, right? They have,
Yes,
yeah, they have that
Yeah.
in the precinct.
Yeah.
and but the union was always against it.
Right.
Did
Did they have matrons when you got there, Dennis?
Yes.
They did, right? So they made
Yeah.
the beds or whatever.
They come in and made the beds, and then you chipped in at Christmas time for
Right.
a gift for her. They were normally widows.
Dennis, what instrument did you play? Was it the pipes or was it the drums or what?
Yeah, I play the pipes.
The fucking pipes.
The pipes.
By the way, I've got the video, so stand by.
Oh, we're gonna look
here
at the
it
video,
comes.
Dennis.
Yeah,
You do?
Yes.
I
He's
do.
on it. You kidding me?
Just trying to. Oops, that's not it. Make everybody happy here. Hold on one sec. Here we go. Let me find it. It's on the desktop. Oh, there it is. I'm gonna scroll through it real quick, so everyone just bear with me. It's right
I'm
by
marching
here.
right by.
Were you guys drinking before this, Dennis?
I hope so.
I don't think that's it.
All right, this is what they put up on the fans page.
Yeah.
All right, still looks good. I always like hearing the pipes.
No, I never wore that kind of
Garb?
yarmulke.
Yarmulke.
There's that. 'Cause that's-
Hey,
see,
the yarmulke.
What's going on?
I found that on YouTube, but I didn't know if it was, and then they confirmed it on the fans page. So fans, get your act together.
They got
Those
the
son
wrong.
of a guns.
They did the wrong thing.
You
Yeah,
did.
I never had that uniform. That was after me.
I got
When the band got richer, the uniforms got richer.
When you made them popular, right, Dennis? Then they got, that's what
But I
happened.
loved being with the band. It was awful fun time, and I got good at the bagpipes, quite frankly.
The pipes.
And,
Do you still play?
yeah.
Oh, nice. You got them there? Why don't you belt out a tune for us?
No, I don't have them here, but I have this.
His recorder.
Here it comes.
Hey, Pete, Shade 32 said, gave you a Ronald Reagan. Trust
but verify, Pete. Yeah.
He gave you the Ronald Reagan.
I no longer trust you drunks in the chat.
Really?
You fat page douchebags.
Except for Ray Seeley. I trust him.
I know
there he is.
There it is.
Belt up mouth for us, Dennis.
Oh, you don't
This
have
is
to
called a chanter.
Okay. I had one
Sounds
of
like
those.
a
Where'd
duck
mine
call,
go?
Dennis.
Where did mine go? I had one.
Yeah. Where is yours? We need that for certain moments.
I think my son took it. I don't know where he put it.
By the way, Dennis, Ray Seeley from 292 says, "What's up, buddy?"
Oh, good for him.
That is a perfect response.
Oh my God.
Hey.
You still got it, kid. You still got it.
Yeah.
Sounds like a little like a goose.
Oh my God. I got another question for you from the book. You ready, Dennis?
Yeah.
All right. You wrote on the wall in the kitchen, it said, "This could be the night."
Yeah.
What exactly did you mean by that? This could be the night that we caught a good job. This could be your last night. This
Yeah.
could be...
Yeah. It could be the night that, every fire department has one. It's a job that everybody remembers. Even in some firehouses, it was 1927,
Yeah.
But that's okay. They still take the glory.
That's it.
And they'll talk about it. And that's what I meant. That it could be the night for the greatest job you ever had.
This could be the night. I think we got to make a shirt of that, Ruffy.
I'm just going to say this.
You were just going to say.
I'm already going to write it down.
This could be the night.
What do you get for that, Dennis? 10%? What do you get on that?
What are we on? 10% on every T-shirt we make on that now?
Yeah, no, you can have that rights to say that completely.
All right,
thank you.
It's on video.
We'll send you a mug.
Well,
There you go.
this could be
like that. He said, "There you go."
He drinks coffee, so I see him drinking.
There
So
you
it's
go.
tea.
Tea.
Oh,
Come on, he's an author, Kevin. They drink tea. He drinks tea.
authors don't drink.
I drink tea only because I'm not because I'm an author, just because.
Oh, but listen, in the book you said you drank coffee.
Yes. In the firehouse, you got to drink coffee.
Yeah, you're not making tea.
Drink tea. No.
Only Evans make tea.
Yeah, he's either part English or part.
Anyway, no. I got to say, when I was in my early 30s, you see, I wrote a report from Engine Company 82 when I was 29.
Uh-huh.
When I was in my early 30s, I stopped drinking alcohol completely, and I stopped drinking coffee completely.
Wow, look at you!
And started drinking tea, and it just made me healthier,
Wow, yeah, I did the opposite. I drink coffee and alcohol more heavy now than I do.
I started drinking much more heavily since I started doing the show, to be honest with you. I've never drank this much alcohol in my life. My God.
I normally go to a steakhouse or something and say, I don't want anything that's good for me.
All right, so you pick your
Give me a
poison.
lot of butter. You got to give me some bread with butter and
Garlic butter,
fried shrimp, and a fat steak.
Yeah,
anyway, I'm sure that the world thinks I'm an authority in these things, but I'm not.
How long did it take you to actually write the book, Dennis?
6 months.
6 months, and then it was published, and then now you got over 3 million copies sold. It's written in 12 different languages. You're up to what, 5, 6 revisions? I'd say it did all right.
Yeah, I think that it's probably clean copies now, but it's probably closer to 4 million copies.
Of course it is. After tonight, it's going to be 5 million.
Smells.
After tonight?
Yeah, well, that's true.
Maybe not. Maybe like 4.0005.
Well, I'll tell you something. Not that I do this. So tell you this with a sufficient amount of modesty. The first television show I ever went on was the Johnny Carson show.
You met Johnny Carson too?
Yes, I was on the Johnny Carson show, and the next day I was on the Today Show, and the day after that I was on Good Morning America. So the book went to the bestseller. Now today it's very hard for a writer like me to write because all of those guys who work on Fox News, they all write books and they all promote their books all the time.
Right.
It costs them nothing, and so it's hard to compete with them. But I'm going to compete with them anyway. I have a new book called Don't Tell the Mayor. And
what is that? When's that going to come out?
Well, it's. I would say if I finish it by Barbara Hill and Lee Ioppi wrote it down in a book that said I would finish this book on September 30th. So that's what I'm shooting for, September 30th. So then we publish 6 months later, say. But it's a book of fires and jobs that to me were moving and that I remember, and they're worth telling. So I tell them all completely from beginning to end, and then into space with stories of publishing that book and what happened after I published it. Doing all the big deal stuff that you do when you have a book on the bestsellers list. It's quite a big deal on the New York Times list.
Oh yeah, no doubt. Well, come back and we'll advertise it for free because that's what we do. We might not be Johnny Carson, but we got a couple of 3 or 4 guys watching. We can get them to buy.
We definitely have an Ed McMahon for sure.
Yeah.
Dennis, which book was the most enjoyable to write? Was it the first one?
Oh yeah, I think by far. Writing Engine 82 to me was really an act of love. I've sat down and first of all, we moved my son Sean out of his bedroom. And I put a table and a chair, a writer and a dictionary in that room. And I sat down and I wrote the book in 6 months. And I got paid for writing it. So that was a big deal, too. $5,000, I think.
You didn't spend that all in one place, did you?
No, and I didn't buy a car. You could have bought a car for $5,000 in those days.
Wow, it's not a bad number.
So, anyway, but it was easy to write because I was going to work every day. I had to just go to work and I had to do a job and then I would write about the job.
Right.
And some days the jobs were more interesting than others, But that's how it happened.
Did the guys know you were writing it as you were writing it, or was it a surprise? They did. Interesting.
I had a question. I forgot what the hell I was just going to ask you.
How the hell they stay so good looking?
That too. Yeah. Yep. Where are my notes? Hold on a minute. Oh, you know what? I want one more quote that you had that really stood out to me is when you wrote that at anytime you look in the news or in a newspaper, any national disaster, whether it be a hurricane, a fire, a plane crash, whatever it is, every photo and every paragraph written, there's always a firefighter mentioned in the story, which I thought was an excellent point, right? I mean, no matter what it is, no matter what takes place, the fire department's always there, right? No matter what natural disaster or man-made disaster, the fire department is always an integral part of helping people.
That's true, and it's dependent on the writer. Like you'll meet writers that work for particularly newspapers like the Times or the Washington Post or the Boston Globe.
So they lean this way a little bit to the left.
Well, it's not only that. It's that they think that they're big deals.
Right.
And that they think of firefighters as, the working class, and that not worth their time or consideration. So, but we try to fix that as much as we can, and I think that the firemen have been better off since we bought from Indian Company 82 than before, because enough people, because there were millions of people who read that book, enough people came to consider them in a more professional way, that it was something to be a fireman.
Yep. Yeah, no doubt. We got a question here, Pete, from the chat.
Yeah, from MCs actually.
MC's my boy. He's the one who gave me the info to get in touch. So I got to thank MC for that one.
Well, he's saying, didn't have the chance to ask Mr. Smith on my program, but what was the inspiration to put together 2002's report from Ground Zero? It was amazing.
Oh, well, I was on 9/11. The morning of 9/11, I was in a doctor's office, and the nurse came out. She said that, God, a plane just went into the World Trade Center. So, I realized that doesn't happen. So I went home really fast, put the TV on, changed clothes, found one of my old FDNY shirts, put it on, and went down to the firehouse on 67th Street and 3rd Avenue, and there were a bunch of convocating firefighters there. And so we all commandeered a bus, and we asked everybody to get off the bus, and we took it down to Ground Zero. And so, I didn't think of it in terms of a bus. I did think of it because the first person I met down there was Jimmy Boyle, who was a really dear friend of mine. And do you remember Jimmy Boyle?
I do, yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Anyway, he was the head of the union, and I always call him the Pope's representative in FDNY. But and he says he was looking for his son Michael, and that's what just stuck in my mind. All the days in the beginning, I was there for 57 consecutive days.
Wow!
Every day for 57 days, and then I left it finally when I just thought I couldn't do it anymore, So, but I went to a lot of funerals, the 30-odd funerals during that time too. So I'd go to a funeral in the morning, and in the afternoon I'd just go to the site, and I'd stay there until after midnight. And I'd always see Lee Ioppi was there,
He was there every day.
He was there every day. Well, his son Jonathan, of course, was lost. Mm-hmm. And I developed a friendship with Lee, and the kind of I'd follow you anywhere friendship, which is best kind. So
It is the best kind.
Yeah, but I tell him I'm only my friend because Barbara is such a good cook. So he'll love that.
I hope he's watching. You gotta get him on.
Well, you gotta know that he likes to cook, Yeah. He's actually, I don't want to give him the break, but he is a good cook.
Some cars are comfy on the inside, but don't have power on the outside. And some cars have the horsepower, but none of the comfort. I used to think there weren't any cars that were the total package. But that all changed when I got my Honda SUV. It's rugged and sophisticated, and right now, Honda has deals on the entire Honda SUV lineup. CR-V, HR-V, Pilot, Passport, you name it. So if you're looking for a car that's the total package, the only place you'll find it is at your local Honda dealer. Hurry before they're all gone.
Streaming only on Peacock.
John Wayne Gacy killed 32.
Straight from the killer's mouth.
They want you to believe that I alone committed these murders.
The new gripping 6-part documentary series, John Wayne Gacy, Devil in Disguise. All episodes streaming now, only on Peacock.
But Barbara is better. Anyway.
Yeah, nice. What? So when did you decide that you were going to do the book? Was it happening right away? Was it happening months after, years after? When did that come about?
No, it came about in I think the third week. I talked to my publisher at Viking, because one of the things that I realized that these two planes made history, American history, and that somebody was going to write a book about that day. And there are a lot of writers who I would name, but they're no longer with us. You know, there are people like Jimmy Breslin or Pete Hamill, and you know, I know them all, and they're nice enough guys. But I didn't think they were right to write that story. That was a firefighter's story.
Right.
And so I told my publisher I would write a book about it. And then my publisher did a smart thing, actually. I didn't like it at the time, but it was smart in retrospect. They let it out to the Daily News. And the Daily News wrote a story that I was going to write this book about Ground Zero. And so that gave all the publishers notice that I was writing this book, so they wouldn't pay a lot of money to the other writers who I didn't think deserved to write this book.
Right.
So, and then I wrote a very sad story. I mean, profoundly human, and it's one of the great humans. In fact, you know, I was writing about the Greek wars, just another interest. But I was writing about the Greek wars in 300 BC, and the Battle of Thermopylae, and when the Persians. 20,000 Persians were kept back for 3 days
By the Greeks,
by 300 Greeks.
Right.
And it was a great, great act of courage. They all died except one, the one
to
who
tell the
lived.
story. Yeah, tell the story.
Tell the story.
Wow.
So I think that no other act of courage in history has been recorded or referred to as much as the Battle of Thermopylae. But you know, Ground Zero is much more important. That heroism was there. I had so many references to people had died on 9/11 who said to other people who survived it, you know, a lot of firemen were in and out of that building.
Yeah.
And
all luck of the draw.
All luck of the draw. And they said that, you know, we may not survive this. And so they were aware of the incredible. I mean, firemen are always aware that they're in a, you know, ceiling can come down or floor can give in. You're always aware.
This could be the night.
This could be the night. But here, at the ground zero, you know, that kind of determination, carrying that hose up over your shoulder, up 60 stories, as you know, Upper Fireman did. It's unbelievable what those firemen did and how they just did it. They knew what they had to do and they did it.
The greatest rescue.
Yeah. So that courage and heroism, I did not want anybody else to write that story except a person who would focus in on the firefighters the way I did with that book. You know?
Dennis, you know what I wanted to ask you? It's obviously a sensitive subject, right? 9/11. Did you get any, when it was put out that you were writing a book about it? Did you catch any flack? Did anybody, was it good, bad,
yes.
vibes?
No, I got, there was one firefighter, a well-known firefighting family actually, who dropped a letter on me saying that I should not do this, that it was, you know, making $1 on the coffins of your friends. And they couldn't have been more wrong. You know, they didn't know what they're talking about. I gave $150,000 to the New York Police and Fire Widows and Children's Fund. And
which you were a trustee for that, correct?
Yes, I was. And as I said before, this is being FDNY trained. You can put up with anything, even a guy who's trying to nail you, you know. And
well, you're never going to make everybody happy in the end, right?
Nope.
I mean,
no,
we know
that's
that.
a small story.
Right. No, I agree.
It's a small story, and compared to the immensity of 9/11 and the reverence that we all look at that history now. You know, it's 20 years, and I'm glad that book is out there.
Yes, a lot of people. We get a lot of, you know, once we posted that you were going to be on, obviously 82, Engine 82 and the 9/11 book, people were writing that some of the best stuff they've ever read. As if, you know, if you're a firefighter, those are the books that you wanted to read. You know what I mean?
Well, also, you know, who else would have written the book besides you, a proper author who's a firefighter? You know what I mean?
Yes.
I mean, why would you hand that response? Somebody's going to write a book about 9/11. Right?
There's a lot of books about 9/11.
Right. Why would you hand the responsibility to someone else instead of one of your own? You know, I would never criticize anyone for wanting to express themselves about something that important.
Yeah, no, it's true. You know what? It didn't matter to me that letter went out, except that it was signed by 11 guys, and a few of whom I knew, and one even from the bagpipe band. So I that was a little hard to take, but you know, he had a point of view. It's what he wanted to believe at the time, and so he believed it. That, you know, an insult in relation to this story just doesn't count for anything. You know, you can't consider it.
Yeah, no. How did you start? There was a question in the chat before I saw Dennis. How did you start the Firehouse magazine? I know this is obviously before that, but how did you start that?
I've always been entrepreneurial, you know, and so I wrote in my office one day a business plan to start a magazine, because the only magazines in America for firemen were none. You know, they were Fire Engineering, which was for the bosses, Fire Chief for the bosses. And those two magazines had the whole market. So I decided I was going to create Firehouse. So it was written for the firefighters and not for the bosses. and it would, hopefully they would be better inspired, better trained, better understanding. And so I went to, this is the advantage of living in New York. I went to a friend of mine named Bob Russell, who was a lovely guy, who also had a lot of money. And I said, Bob, I want to do this. And I showed him the paper, and he read it, and he said, let's do it. And he gave me, I don't know, I think it was $60,000, which sort of got it off the ground. And then I raised $2 million to start it. The magazine's very expensive, because it's paper and postage. In today's world, the model is not good.
Right.
So anyway, but I loved doing it, and I thought it was a lot of fun, and I built a great staff. And then I started the convention in Baltimore, the Firehouse convention.
I went to that when I was a pro.
What year did you start the magazine, Dennis? What year did that start?
I think 76.
Wow.
Oh, shit. I didn't know it was that old.
Mackerel.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the convention is going to Ohio this year.
Ohio, yep.
Yeah.
We went to it in Nashville a few years ago. We had this.
I tried to buy it back. I should not. I regret it, actually, selling that magazine. And what I should have gotten was somebody like yourselves, quite frankly, who, guys who know the job well, and I should have made a deal to run it. Get somebody to run it.
Yeah.
And but I didn't. So I also had an advertising director who wasn't supportive of not selling. So I sold it anyway.
But you stayed on, or you didn't stay on?
No, I didn't stay
You
on.
didn't stay on.
I sold it to the singer, Beverly Sills, the opera singer. I sold it to her brother.
Really?
Yeah, Stanley Sills.
Can he sing?
He moved it. He didn't sing. I moved it to Long Island. He moved it to Long Island. And, they don't care about you. It's once they own it,
Right.
forget about him.
What year did you sell it, Dennis? What year did you get out?
'90. I think I had it for 12 years. So 86 or something like that.
You had a lot of irons in the fire, Dennis, huh? You had a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, well, even today I do.
That's what I mean, even now.
I have 2 books finished. I have this foundation that I really care about. And I have this thing called WavePeg, WAVEPEG, and it's social media. And the way I say in the thing, create a wave today. That guy knows how to create waves.
Nice. That's Petey.
He's an entrepreneur.
So WavePeg should be used by every fire department. That every guy in the fire department should use WavePeg and start his own page for his fire company. Like for the Jersey City Engine 6, whatever that is. And he should just start writing about Jersey City 6. And then all the guys in his company will start going to the same page.
How is it up and running now?
Yes.
WavePeg. Did he put that up on the wavepeg.com?
Yeah, I got you. Coming up.
So anyway, WavePeg is I invented it. Every single page I invented. Why it's necessary? It's necessary because it I bet, I don't never go to Facebook, but I belong to Facebook. I have 10,000 friends on Facebook, which is the maximum. Thank you very much. There it is.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
That's Ed McMahon.
Yeah,
Hey-o.
good Ed.
Good, Ed.
Good man.
Hi-oh.
So anyway, it's just another thing, that I invented because it was necessary. And how do firemen use Facebook? Think about it. They do little groups. There is a group called the Warriors.
Right. I belong to that. I follow it, actually.
Yeah.